Hey there guys, and welcome back to Alex Invest. Today the markets are green. I want to talk to you guys about a few things today. The first one is brewbilt manufacturing. What's going on there? I want to talk to you guys a little bit about revenues. They came out with a new news report today actually. So we're going to go through that. We're going to just look at what's going on with their revenues. Where's the 20 million? Is it still coming? And just the buyback as well. Are they still doing the share buyback, etc.? So we're going to go through that stuff. Then I want to talk to you guys about Hillcrest Energy Technologies, right? Because they actually announced that they acquired the Anigo IP on Tuesday. On Monday, I was talking about how we should see that news soon. And of course, the day after, we did see that. So that is great. We're going to go through that a little bit. And then finally, we're going to go through Exro Technologies because on April 6th, they announced their fourth quarter financial results from 2020. And there's not too much new stuff in there, but we're going to go over that a little bit anyways. So starting off here with a brewbilt manufacturing, we're going to start right here. Now, this is the report that came out today, right? April 8th here. And what we see is kind of some new orders coming in here. Since January 1st, we can see here $2.5 million in new orders. And an additional 1.2 million there in orders. We can see they're also expanding their manufacturing here, and they will accommodate $3 million in orders at any given time. Now, that is going to be pretty good for them because what sort of we've realized here is that they need to work on this backlog now, right? If we go over here, now this came out on March 4th, right? So about a month ago now, but it talks about how they kind of got $3.1 million in revenues in the first quarter. Now, obviously we read from this report way back, right, that they're going to have that 20 million in immediate revenue. Now, what we're seeing is just $3 million in revenue in the first quarter here. But the reason that is because of all the backlog, right? They just don't have enough kind of manufacturing capabilities in order to get all these brewing systems out to people and get them actually built and ready to go, right? So that's why we kind of have this 3.1 million here first quarter revenues, and then $17 million in pending orders. Now, once they increase their manufacturing here to accommodate $3 million in order at any given time, that's going to really increase their ability to kind of get rid of this backlog, move forward, get those revenues in, right? Now, we don't really get sort of a gist of the time frame that it takes here, right? They say $3 million in orders in any given time, but they don't kind of give us a time frame of how long each of these orders takes for them to kind of be finished manufacturing here. Is it $3 million in orders that they can work on at once and it takes them, 4 months to get these orders done? Or is it more like, 10 days, 15 days. So it would be nice if they kind of expanded on this a little bit. Now, the other thing is that share buyback, of course, right? And what we see is they are still planning to repurchase those $5 million in shares by kind of the end of 2021. So we'll just have to wait kind of to see what happens there. They kind of filed for this registration A form. And what they say here is to avoid any toxic convertible note funding. But they've actually since retracted that, right, and withdrew from that 1A form. But in here, I believe it does say that they're just going back to an older kind of version, which was amended in the past, and now they're going back to that, right? Again, we'll just have to see what comes of that. Now, the annual report came out just recently here as well, right? The 10K. And what's interesting to see here is just really on their statement of operations here. Their sales and their cost of sales, I think, is very interesting here because in 2020 compared to 2019, they do have less kind of sales or revenue coming in here, but barely. And cost of sales, though, has gone way down, right? From 1.2 million in 2019 to 455,000 in 2020, which means they're expanding, their production is getting more efficient, and these kind of new plants and operations they're setting up right now is really going to benefit them in the future from what it looks like here. And the other thing, obviously, to note is how small the revenue in 2020 was compared to the revenue that we should see here in 2021 already, right? In Q1, like we've mentioned, they have that $3.1 million in the first quarter, and we should see that just continue with that backlog of $17 million in orders. And then, of course, all these new orders that we're seeing coming in, right? $1 million. $2.5 million in new orders there. Now, of course, they do need to stick with this. Originally, when we talked about this company, we assumed we would see the whole $20 million in kind of backlog in new orders that need to be fulfilled happen in the first and second quarter here. Now, if they are able to kind of increase their manufacturing here and do 3 million orders at any given time, we might see that backlog kind of actually get a lot lower. But it'll be very interesting to see second quarter revenues here and where they're going to go and how many orders they actually are going to be able to fulfill, how much revenues they're going to be able to get within a quarter here, especially as they're expanding. So that's what I'm waiting for. I'm currently not adding to my position in brewbilt manufacturing. That's because I'm adding to quite a few other positions. You guys know the positions as well. It's CMC, it's MVMD, it's Hillcrest Energy Technologies. Still getting used to saying that because it used to be Hillcrest Petroleum, right? And those are really the main ones. Exro Technologies as well, and that's really what I'm adding to right now. So holding my position here, not adding to it, not selling, obviously, because we are pretty down right now as well. I'm actually down on this one too, but yeah, so that's that. Now Hillcrest Energy Technologies here, it's obviously the acquisition of the Anigo Technologies, and then Ari Berger here is joining as their CTO. Now, we have seen the price move from this, like I've been saying for kind of the past while here, right? Really the past month and a half that I've been saying once this Anigo IP comes out, they kind of run from that, and we are seeing a 0.24 coming up from that 0.22, right? So a little bit of gains there, which is nice. I am not selling my position here at all. If anything, I'm adding to my position, because what we're getting to next now is that AC/DC deal, right? They have the letter of intent signed from a while back, and we've talked about the AC/DC deal, which comes after the Anigo IP is acquired. The agreement was valued at around $1.5 million, which right down here, where we see Ari Berger basically got 6 million shares of Hillcrest, and then another 200,000 paid in cash. Now the 6 million times 0.24 is about, $1.2 million ish, right? So he got those in shares, and then the extra 200,000 is about $1.5 million there. So I think it's a good thing they're doing this, partially issuing of shares for Ari Berger and then partially paying in cash for it, because again, that kind of gives incentive, right, for Ari Berger as the CTO here to kind of help grow Hillcrest here as a company, first of all, and kind of integrate that Anigo IP, while also Hillcrest doesn't have to spend too much of their actual cash here, which they can use again for operations, for expansion, etc. there, right? So that's all good, and I am kind of excited for the future here. I think we will kind of see a little bit more of a run here, I think, in Hillcrest on this news. But then also, because the next thing is going to be that AC/DC deal, in my opinion. I don't know when it's going to happen. I'm guessing within the next few months here, we should see news about that. So I am excited for that. Now, finally, Exro Technologies, fourth quarter and fiscal 2020 financial results here came out on the 6th. As we know, they have that validation on the battery control system there, right? And then obviously the validation of the 100V coil driver. Obviously Heinzman there, and how they're really integrating it into these vehicles now, and how they've kind of totally proved that whole side. With the coil driver, not yet for the BCS, but they are working on that too, and they kind of go into that a little bit in here as well, talking about that deal with C Electric and how they're working with that BCS, right? And so we should see good news there coming up as well. Other than that, not too much going on here. I did want to mention kind of this here, some of the highlights here of their 2020 financials. Obviously, no revenues yet. So we have a comprehensive loss of much higher here of 10 million. But this is largely, as they say here, because of, well, first of all, payroll and consulting, because they need to hire more engineers for the research and development, etc. And I think this is a really good move here, obviously, because they do still have a little bit of work on that BCS, on the coil driver too, right? Because yes, they have the 100V coil driver, but they still have that 400V, that 800V coil driver, which goes off of the same platform as that 100V, but there still needs to be work done there. And then obviously the BCS, and that's going to be their big kind of driver of revenues as well, in my opinion here, because once they're really able to kind of work on that individual cell level, I think that's going to be really big for a lot of electric vehicle companies, and sort of other kind of companies in that EV space, which could use technology like this. I think their increase in payroll here for their engineers is very important, and obviously their increase here in research and development, right, increased quite heavily. They had only a couple 100,000 here in research and development before, right, because it's increased by 1.7 million to 2.2 million. So the difference there of 500,000-ish is what they had prior. So I think that's a good move, increasing their research and development there. And nothing too shocking really in the rest of their financial report here, pretty much all basic, just talking as well about some of their deals that have been happening here, their land deal as well, obviously moving forward quite heavily. They do talk a bit about that. Heinzman, obviously, we've talked about all that before as kind of the news came out. So that is all good. And that is also going to be pretty much it for the video for you guys today. I hope you liked it. If you did, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment as always. And other than that, I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.